Hello, my fellow Extraordinary Americans. I'm Cosmos Dar, and this is Extraordinary America. What is Extraordinary America about? You see, American identity is about freedom, the opportunity for a better life, and the pursuit of happiness. However, most Americans are not free when it comes to the financial front. Most Americans are suffering from financial slavery due to loss of jobs, stagnant wages, inflation, and debt of all kinds. Wealth and income inequality runs rampant across America, and the middle class is all but disappeared. So what is Extraordinary America about? Extraordinary America is about the abolition of financial slavery. It is about the financial freedom of the 99%. It is about the nation of immigrants and descendants of immigrants awakening and unleashing the extraordinary within themselves and setting themselves free. The path to financial freedom is through entrepreneurship and investing on the light side. It is about financial education, not only when it comes to money in the monetary systems, but also in regards to how to start a business, investing, especially when it comes to precious metals and real estate. In this podcast, I interview guests, many of whom came from humble beginnings, to see how they did it and how they attained financial freedom in their own lives and how they did business. And it is my hope that you will be inspired and you will want to awaken extraordinary within yourselves and realize the American dream. Once again, welcome to Extraordinary America. Welcome back to the show, my fellow Extraordinary Americans. For today's guest, we have Michael Fleischner. Michael is an entrepreneur, marketer, author, and speaker. He has worked with a variety of businesses in the education, HR, finance, and technology sectors to improve online marketing effectiveness and results. He's the founder of BigFin SEO, a full-service digital marketing agency that specializes in search engine optimization, paid search, website development, and content creation. Michael has appeared on the Today Show, ABC World News, Bloomberg Radio, and featured in USA Today discussing best marketing practices. He has authored a variety of marketing-related books, including Confessions of a Freelancer, The Seven-Figure Freelancer, and his top-selling search engine optimization guide, SEO Made Simple, 7th edition. In addition to running a full-service digital marketing agency, Michael has developed a program called the Freelance Training Academy that trains individuals on how to make a living freelancing, either part-time or full-time. The robust program includes asynchronous and synchronous training, online video training, and an active freelance community. Michael is also partners with Permit Search, a business that provides permitting data to inspectors in the real estate sector. From a volunteer perspective, Michael serves as president of the American Marketing Association's Professional Chapters Council, and that works with more than 70 individuals, AMA chapters across the United States and Canada to support the marketing profession. Prior to his board role, Michael served as the president for the American Marketing Association of New Jersey. Michael is what I would call an extraordinary American, and I'm honored and glad to have him on the show. Michael, are you there?
I am. So great to be here.
Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to do this podcast with me. I'm really honored to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Michael, so I know that you're into SEO, you're an entrepreneur, you're into marketing, and you're an author. Can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about yourself, your background, and how you got started?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. It's a pretty interesting story. I grew up just like any other kid in New Jersey, with, parents who were educated and worked hard. And they said, you're going to go to college, you're going to get an education, and you're going to work for a company. And that's really how I started my career. And for me, I think it was a good fit. I went to Rutgers undergraduate, got a master's degree at Northwestern University, had that pedigree, which helped certainly get the first job. And I started working for corporations. And I did that for a little while, but there was something in me that was just not feeling truly fulfilled. So I kind of had the entrepreneurial bug. I decided to try a few things on the side. And I actually left my full-time job to start doing marketing consulting. And I did that for a period of time, for about 3 years. But I quickly learned that being your own boss is more than just doing what you love. It's also doing sales, marketing, operations, HR, IT, accounting, and everything else. So after 3 years of making it on my own, I actually threw in the towel and headed back to corporate America. And again, I ran some marketing departments for some publishing companies, technology companies, a variety of companies, but ultimately left the workforce again to be what I would consider a full-time freelancer. Today I run my own marketing agency. I've got an amazing team around me. I'm essentially running a company, but I still see myself as that independent guy, just grinding every day, trying to provide value. And that has led to many of the things that you read in the introduction, right? From publishing books to at one time having a podcast to being involved in multiple businesses. And that's essentially how I've become who I am today.
So, Michael, one of the questions I was wondering was, what is the motivational factor that got you to like take the risk of leaving corporate America to basically do it? Because a lot of people want to do that. They're in corporate
Mhm.
America or they're in their jobs, but in order to do business on their own, it takes all of that. You have to take all those things into consideration, like taxing, accounting, and all that stuff. Like, what is the motivational factor that let you take those risks on in the first place?
It's a great question because I think my journey is probably not that unique, meaning that I think a lot of people struggle with that very thing. And it comes down to what I call deprogramming. We're so programmed that risk is a bad thing and that bad things can happen. And the reality, especially when it comes to our careers, and this is going to sound somewhat trite because it's simple, it's not always easy. If you take a risk, the worst thing that can happen is you fail and you go get another job. And I didn't think that way. I said, how could I give it up? I've got a wife and a growing family at home. I have bills. I have responsibilities. I can't give up a paycheck. What happens if I don't? What happens if I don't succeed? If I don't make the sales? If I don't fulfill this idea of the type of business I can create? And that was a barrier for many years. And I think it's through personal development and personal growth that I realized that the risk wasn't as big as I was making it out to be in my own mind, because that's where it lives, that's where it exists. So I got there gradually over time. You hear about people who say, you know what, I'm going to start a business, I don't know, selling candy, and they literally quit a six-figure job to go sell candy. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but they have an appetite for risk. I didn't have that appetite. So, how do you get there? Through snacks. Through snacks and doing it slowly. So I started to do some work on the side, a little consulting here, a little consulting there. I started to see more success. I took on bigger projects. Then I started all while having a full-time job. Then I started to get partners and JVs and other people helping me. And ultimately, I was making the same amount of money on the side as I was in my full-time job. And it's then and only then where I was comfortable enough to say, you know what? I can't do both. I'm going to focus on what it is I truly love. And truthfully, that was even a challenge because I said, oh, what if it doesn't last? What if I lose that client? What if I make a mistake? And all of that was psychological. And for me, it was a place where I needed to focus on that personal development to stop believing all the lies I was telling myself. Because now that I've gone through that transition, I see how ridiculous all of those fears actually were. None of them came true. Zero. Not a single one. Not a concern, not a fear, not a worry. And I had to talk myself through it. That's the answer, right? It's pure grit. It's having that desire that you're going to get there. And I think ultimately you just have to become more comfortable with risk.
Michael, this is one question I have to ask you. So you were doing a corporate job and then you were doing this side hustle and you're growing this business and you had a family on top of that. So what I wanted to ask on behalf of my audience is how did you manage your time to be able to do all of that? Because you're already spending 8 hours on the corporate job, then you got to do an additional few hours on this business. How do you juggle that and how do you manage your time effectively?
The challenge there is that it's not always a clean thing to do, meaning there were some weeks where I had to disappear because I was working both jobs. There are other weeks where I was able to balance things a little better, where I wasn't always working. And I think there was definitely a period where I was grinding. I was getting up early. I was, because I authored a number of books during this time as well. So I was getting up at 5 a.m. and writing for a solid hour every day before I got myself ready for my corporate job. Then I'd work all day and I'd come home and then I'd have dinner and I'd do 2 or 3 hours worth of work. But it wasn't like that every day. There were just periods where the work ethic had to match what my goals and aspirations were. And then there were things on the opposite side where, I was taking a week off of my day job because I had vacation time. And I said, you know what? I'm also going to take a week off for my consulting and writing. So I think it's really all about balance. And I think it was finding out when I could easily get into flow. When did I work well? For someone like you might say, hey, when I'm on with a guest, like that's my happy time and that's my ideal schedule. So you try to do more of that and less of the things that are more draining. So, for example, if someone said to me, hey, Michael, I need you at 7 o'clock every night to get on a Zoom call with me, I couldn't do that because by 7 o'clock, I'm spent. I'm not a night person. By 10:30, 11 o'clock, I'm in bed and I'm asleep. But if you said, hey, we're going to have to get up and grind at 5 o'clock every morning, I could do that for a period of time. So I think that one of the key things for everyone to keep in mind is when are you at your best? Not, read a book or see somebody on Insta who says, oh, this is the routine you need to follow. I think that's BS. It's all about being in tune with what works for you and where are you at your best. And if you can tap into that, I think you can do a lot and see a lot of success.
No, I mean, like the way you're describing, you had an amazing work ethic and you're waking up at 5 a.m., which is a sign of a successful business person. Like if you're waking up early morning and you have like your routine set up, like it's pretty impressive, you know? And there was one thing I wanted to ask regarding like I know you wrote a lot of books about SEO and like marketing and everything. So a lot of businesses they have websites these days. Everything is happening online. So what is the number one most effective strategy according to you in order to get businesses to have more audience?
I
And
think there
what
are two. Yeah, yeah. I think there are two things I would recommend. I think the biggest thing is that you want to be found online. So, people joke about Googling themselves. I Google myself, I Google my business on a regular basis, if not daily, at least 4 or 5 times a week. Why? Because it's like your reputation, right? Google is who you say, or Google gives people the impression of who you are. So it's not just what you say about yourself. It's an independent third party saying, oh, if I'm going to Google this company, what I see is going to form the impression of whether or not I want to do business with that company. So I think having a strong online presence is critical. We call it reputation management, but there are a lot of different ways to do it today, both paid and organically. So I think that's really the most important. I think the other thing too is just making sure that you are partnering with other companies, other businesses, other JVs who can help amplify your message as well. Because you can't do it by yourself. I think that's the one thing that I've learned, especially here at Big Fin SEO. We love working with other agencies. It's co-opetition, but every agency can't do everything for every client. So we partner with a lot of agencies either to provide their SEO or their paid search or sometimes website development. But, by working with those other companies or other agencies, we're able to really accelerate and amplify our brand. And I think that's a critical strategy that a lot of companies overlook.
Yeah, so in your opinion, what do you think is the most common mistake that companies are doing when they're trying to market their stuff online? Because a lot of businesses do that, but very few actually successfully market and get their product and service out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a lack of diversification. Things are so crowded. Online is crowded, offline is crowded, email is crowded, social media is crowded. So in order to really cut through that clutter, you kind of have to be everywhere all the time. And that means you have to be open to trying new strategies. And a good example I'll give is that at BigFin SEO, we use cold email outreach as one of our marketing strategies, in addition to paid search and SEO and everything else. And I think I've gone through 5 or 6 vendors to find the right fit for our organization. Now, I could have given up after the first one didn't work out, but the world doesn't work that way. You don't bat 1,000 every time. And as a mutual friend has said, the reality is you may have the right vision. The vision is your own, but it's going to take 7 or 8 strategies to actually achieve that vision. And to me, that's really the North Star. And I think that's why I've seen some success where others may not have seen that success simply because I know that it's not going to happen day one or maybe day 30. You have to stick with it. And companies who try a lot of different things, but they really don't give it enough time, I think are a bit short-sighted and may miss out on some really good opportunities.
No, I mean that's true, you know. So, Michael, one of the things that I wanted to ask connected to this was during your entire time in this industry, what was the biggest lesson or revelation you had regarding the industry in general?
Mm. Quality over quantity. There are a lot of quote unquote SEO companies that are not really above board. They're not doing the work. They're not using the latest practices. They're trying to take shortcuts. They're, buying links from third parties. They're doing a lot of shady stuff. And it's like a churn and burn type of strategy. My organization's not like that, largely because I was on the other side of the desk. I was one of those companies paying agencies to do digital marketing, paid search, SEO, all those things. And, I learned a lot during that process, and I wanted to build an agency that really focused more on quality over quantity. So we don't have thousands of clients, but we've got a good, solid roster of clients, and we provide really good work for them, and they stick around. And because of that, I don't need to be in a churn and burn type of situation. And I can really create a win-win where organizationally we're doing what we do best and companies are seeing a benefit from that. So when it comes to the SEO industry, there have been a lot of changes and it continues to evolve. But at the end of the day, especially with mobile just being part of everyone's life, I don't think it's ever going away. People continually want to show up online, but they also want to do that in new ways. So the only additional thing I would say is that in this industry, you have to be open. You have to be open to changes that search engines are making, or even new search engines like DuckDuckGo that are starting to get some traction. Because at the end of the day, we just want to make sure our clients are showing up and they're putting their best foot forward online. And sometimes that means doing things a little differently than you've done in the past.
Interesting. Yeah, you know, like in the past 20 years, like everything changed with when the internet was created, right? Like before that, we just had the normal ways of doing things like newspaper, maybe radio, like television ads and all of that stuff. Now it's like a whole everything changed in the last 20 or 30 years. So it's still very new to a lot of business owners.
And surprisingly, a lot of stuff is coming back. I mean, I look at physical mail. Physical mail today is still a great strategy for a lot of companies because they're really not competing with anyone. You look at your mailbox today, a lot of it's junk, and you probably don't get a lot of stuff in your mailbox, right? So what used to be extremely crowded, difficult, and expensive may be a more effective way to market your product or service than ever before. Again, if you're an e-commerce business or a digital business, of course, that's probably not ideal for you. But the whole point is that you really have to be open to trying all of these different things to see what will give you some traction and help shape your brand.
I've actually not thought of it that way, like where like you know you got to do what most people are not thinking of, and like most people
Exactly.
think that physical mail is now who's going to do that because everybody's focused on the online. But yeah, you're right about that. So
Yeah.
so Michael, like when it came to growing your SEO business, right? Like what was the biggest challenge you faced over years growing it, and how did you overcome it?
I think the biggest challenge for me has been balancing growth with new opportunity. So part of the challenge of running an SEO business is that to train someone effectively to do SEO, it takes quite a bit of time. It's not like you can hire some kid off the street, a recent college grad, and say, okay, you're now delivering SEO to clients. I mean, there are agencies that do that. We don't do that, right? So because we have kind of this long lead up, the lead generation, the new client acquisition is a little tricky because we, for a long time, didn't want to grow too quickly because we knew we wouldn't service our clients fairly and we would lose those clients. So you're kind of, again, in this churn and burn type of scenario, which really doesn't work for anyone. So what we've done is we've addressed that in two ways. One is to create a qualified but flexible workforce so that as we bring in new clients, we have a bench of qualified SEOs who can step in and start to deliver that work, as well as with paid search. And then the second thing is we've gotten more aggressive with new business acquisition. So I think in the past, we relied a lot on our agency partners to bring in new clients. And the one thing that COVID taught us is that we can't be solely dependent or reliant on kind of this partner network because they may be impacted by something that we can't control. So in order to create more consistency with the lead flow, we've really invested in our own marketing, as I mentioned before, not just SEO, but paid search and cold email and LinkedIn advertising and all these other things that we do so that we have a consistent quality lead flow. And essentially, we've taken that back. We've taken control of our own new client acquisition. And I think that was really a key strategy for us.
No, that's yeah, basically what you're saying right now is basically what a lot of business owners need to know because the reason I'm asking all these questions is because most people like now they have websites and everything, but what I'm noticing is that a lot of businesses they're not even there on the Google search a lot of
Mhm.
the time, or like it's basically not in the top 2 to 3 pages. And so it's like basics like this that make the difference between success or failure in a business in today's environment.
Yeah, yeah. And I'd go a step beyond that and say, in addition, when they are promoting their business, let's say they're at a conference and they're having conversations or they're meeting people at a Chamber of Commerce event or whatever people are doing from a networking perspective. Well, that person, if they have an interest in your business and your product and your service, the first thing they're going to do is Google you. So what does your reputation look like, as an individual as well as a company? And there are a lot of businesses to this day who still are not proactively managing their online reputation. And as a result, I think a lot of their efforts are wasted. They may be doing all of that networking, but if they see the company only has 2 reviews and one's a 3-star and one's a 4-star, they're going to move on to the next company. So I think taking that aggressive approach there is really essential because it's not just about showing up around a particular service or product or solution. It's also knowing that people are going to Google you directly and making sure that your reputation is pretty sound.
No, yeah, that's really true. Michael, so if let's say somebody wants to join your industry, right? Like they started off like just like you, they're in corporate America and they're like, you know what, I want to start a business in online marketing and ads and SEO and all that, but they don't know how to go about it. What advice would you give to such a person?
Well, my recommendation may be different than someone else, but my feeling is take on a few projects. Don't quit your day job. Don't, walk into your boss's office and say, I'm done. Because you may or may not like it. I don't think it's for everyone. For me, I've made my career and my life out of service to others in the marketing world. And I love doing this. That's why I do it. But even I started with helping people for free initially, then taking on small jobs, then taking on projects, and starting to collaborate and work with others. So my recommendation, I always have a phrase I use, which is crawl, walk, run. And I think no matter where someone is in their job or career, they have to think about what crawling looks like for them. And it may be doing something for free or helping a friend, um, or it may be something more aggressive. But I think that people need to be patient with themselves and try smaller things first before taking a big leap. Again, maybe a different bit of advice than you would get from other guests, but that's what's worked for me, and I feel that that consistent approach of personal growth and professional growth is really something that can stand the test of time.
No, it's actually, like I think you mentioned about consistency, right? Like, yeah, you're right. Like if you're starting from a job and you're trying to get into business, especially this one, you have to be consistent with what you're doing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Michael, like so the SEO industry is very intriguing, right? And with regards to like a lot of people trying to start a business and achieve the American dream. I feel like online marketing in the last 20 years has helped a lot more people achieve the American dream than any other time in human history. So what is your perspective on the internet and marketing and ads as it pertains to the American dream and achieving it in terms of financial freedom?
I think it's a great opportunity. And the nice thing is, it's really open to everyone. The other thing about the internet is that it gives each of us a lot of options on how to get there. And what I mean by that is, I think more wealth has been created, and more importantly, more people have found their passions by leveraging the web than ever before. A good example, I've got a really good friend. He makes an incredible living and he does FBA, fulfillment by Amazon. That's where you choose a product, you ship it to them, they sell it. And, every day you can see people on Instagram who are making all this money doing FBA. And a lot of people are thinking, well, that's garbage. They're just trying to sell me something, blah. No, there are people who are actually doing it. Now, does that mean everyone's legit? I can't speak to that. But my point is, there are so many different ways to make money online that you can try a lot of different things and find out what works for you. Is it FBA? Is it affiliate marketing? Is it being an SEO firm? Is it writing a digital book? Is it, selling something on Etsy? There are just so many options today using the internet that I think it's just a wonderful platform that creates that opportunity.
No, I mean totally. Like in the last 20 years, the opportunities that came from online, like I see a bunch of like just websites where they have like the free ebook and they have like all these coaching programs and everything. And it's all automated. So you can actually do it in a way where you'll have clients coming in. And if you got the email systems and all that figured out, which is why like when with your company where you help with email systems, SEO and everything, like it's kind of like in the middle of this like new almost like the wild wild west of the internet. And a lot of people they don't think of it in terms of like a historical thing where there was this time in the 1800s where America was growing, there was the gold rush and all that, and in the 21st century it was basically the internet rush, and you're basically in a way you're at the forefront of it because you're trying to figure out all the SEO and all that stuff, and like a bunch of other companies are figuring it out, and if you know how to monetize it, it's a great victory altogether.
Mhm. I think the other thing too that's really a difference maker is the technology is much more uh, pervasive today. So to your point, if you want to sell products online, there are funnel builders. There's funnel software, right, that you can buy, whether it's ClickFunnels or whatever people use, ThriveCart. Those things didn't exist 5, 10 years ago. Or if they did,
Exactly.
right? They were in their infancy and they were hard to use. Today, it's not difficult. If you want to try affiliate marketing, you can buy a course, you can learn how to do it, and probably for a couple $100 get started. So you are right. It is kind of a period of time that we're in where we have much more opportunity than we've ever had before.
Like basically starting a business is always going to be hard, but with the internet, it has become much more easier if you have an online business because the overhead costs are not as much as it would be like back in like the 20th century, in the middle of the 20th century and all that, where you have to like get an office and all this. You can just start with just a laptop and a phone, you know?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and that's one of the reasons, like when I'm interviewing people such as yourself, like I want to drive home the point that now if you utilize the internet and if you're using online marketing techniques and everything, you can basically become financially free, which is kind of the mission of Extraordinary America in a way.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and I would say also too, I think where it's evolving with AI is that a lot of the challenges and difficulty we've had just around experimentation, doing A/B splits, multivariate testing, like all these things we do in advertising, now the algorithm does it for you. They even say, like with Facebook ads, you're going to get better performance if you just write really good ads and just make it open to everybody because Facebook or Instagram will find the right audience based on what it is that you're selling. So those are advances just in the last year, 2 years that didn't exist previously. So it seems to be getting easier and easier. And the piece that's getting more difficult is really finding what you're personally passionate about. I think that's where things are shifting because you are right. The opportunity is there, especially if it's a digital business, if it's online. There are just so many benefits to it. So you really have to focus on in my, perspective, just focus on trying a lot of different things and figuring out where your passions lie. Because if you do that, it makes everything else so much easier.
Michael, so like with everything that you know right now about digital marketing and technology and all that stuff, if you could go back to your 12-year-old self and all the knowledge that you have right now, all the wisdom and experience, what would you tell your, like if you could go back in time, what would you tell your 12-year-old self?
To relax, to not have to have it all figured out. And I think that's really the key because, especially now with the internet the way it is, I think it's just open territory and there's plenty of room to experiment, try different things, ultimately find what it is you like. And you can make money doing pretty much anything today. I think the more important thing is doing money or generating wealth through things that you enjoy. And again, that's the benefit of where we live and the freedom we have once you're connected to the internet. And, I think that 12-year-old self was probably somewhat naive in terms of how the world works. And look, it's not all roses, but I mean, it's a great, fun adventure. And you just got to put yourself out there, try a lot of different things, and see ultimately where your passions lie.
No, totally. There's a lot of times where I myself like I wish like I'd known all these things like when I was younger, and I could just map out a strategy in my head of how I was going to be successful. Because I don't think I knew much about the internet until like right out, like I knew about it back in my teenage years, but it was only in my early 20s that I realized that, oh wow, this could be utilized to make a lot of money. Like there's so much potential here, but you have to like learn, you have to see things in a different way.
Absolutely.
So, Michael, I wanted to ask you about your book and your training program. You had this book called The Seven Figure Freelancer and also this program called the Freelance Training Academy. Can you tell me the audience a little bit more about both of them and the premise of how both of them got started?
I'd love to. I'd love to. I think for me, I feel like I was on a somewhat unique journey, especially being so focused on corporate America, having a corporate job, running marketing departments, relying on that corporation and that paycheck. And I was fortunate enough to break out of that mold and start my own business. And that began as a freelancer, taking on projects, having a side hustle, helping friends growing over time in this realm of kind of do it yourself. And to me, looking back, the one thing that was missing, well, there were two things that were missing. One was a mentor who knew exactly what it is I was trying to do. which is transition from corporate America to running my own business. I found that finding that mentor to be very difficult. Now, I've had some great mentors, so I'm not dismissing them, but that specialized knowledge, I think, is unique. So that was the first thing, was missing that mentor. The second was missing a community where I could post a question or engage with someone and say, hey, I don't know how to bill a client. What are my options? And they could say, oh, you could create a Word document, or you could use this software, QuickBooks makes something specifically for small businesses and invoicing, and here's what it costs. And then someone else chiming in to that conversation. So that's my mission. I want to help 1 million people transition from corporate America jobs to full-time/time part-time freelancing.
Love it.
And and one of the ways that I've done that is through the 7-Figure Freelancer, which is available on Amazon, is to share everything that I know about my own personal journey, what I've learned, the mistakes I've made, and really how I have found success during this transition. And that's really the premise of the Freelance Training Academy, where we've created a community. I've developed a training program within that community. But the goal of the community is just to connect with other freelancers, ask and answer questions, share best practices, keep each other motivated, because as a freelancer, it could be somewhat isolating, right? You're just working on your laptop. And just because you're alone doesn't mean that you have to be alone. You can work with other freelancers. You can work at a coffee shop. You can travel. You can do all of these things that I think freelancing is uniquely positioned to provide. But I do better when I'm part of a community with a higher calling, which is to help one another. So that was really the goal of the Freelance Training Academy. It's still in its infancy, but gaining a lot of traction, and the feedback's been great. So we're continuing to push with the community and get people involved. Again, that book was really, I think, dipping my toe in the water to say, I'm going to start by leveling the playing field for anyone who's thinking about transitioning, either transitioning from their full-time job or maybe just picking up some extra work on the side, doing something they enjoy doing.
Michael, you're absolutely right about the two things people are looking for most when they transition. Having a good mentor, that's really hard to find actually, and an online community of like-minded people, because the path of entrepreneurship in itself is a very hard thing. But if they have a group, if they have good mentorship, that's what determines a lot of success and failure. So I really appreciate what you're doing. And I would advise anybody to read your book and also check out your training program, you know?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And I think, one of the key things there is time compression. I think there are a lot of smart people in the world. People can figure it out, but why waste all that time? For me, I want the hack. It's like I want to learn quickly. And that doesn't mean I'm not open to challenges, but at the same time, if you know how to set up and run a successful podcast, I'd love to pick your brain and say, okay, what are the 5 most important things I need to know about setting up and running a strong podcast? And that information exchange can be valuable in both ways, right? As the mentor, you're sharing what you know. As the mentee, you're compressing time and accelerating your results. And if we can do that in a small way, I think it's worthwhile.
Michael, I love that you use the word time compression, and I want the audience to know this. You can compress the rate, like the amount of time in which you can become successful if you have good mentorship and you have a bunch of like-minded people around you, or what you can call a community. So, Michael, what you're talking about, mentorship and online community in regards to time compression, it's so true, and it's very important. I can't stress it enough.
Agreed.
Yeah, and Michael, could you tell us a little bit more about your company, Big Fin SEO, and the premise of how you started that?
Sure. So Big Fin, for me, my side hustle was SEO, search engine optimization. I'd actually launched a website many, many years ago. Spent back in the day, I think I spent $6,000 or $8,000 to build this website, and it didn't show up in Google search results. And I was like, what? I just spent all this money and I can't even find it on Google. So that started me down this path of learning how to fully optimize websites. And one thing led to another. Someone said, oh, if you could show me how to do that, I would pay you X. And it really started this freelance business for me around SEO. And over the last decade, the business has grown, not just in terms of the types of SEO we offer, everything from national SEO to local SEO to content development. We do a lot in that area, but we also do paid search. So specifically Google ads and social media advertising, Facebook ads and Insta ads. Uh, and the third pillar of our triangle around Big Fin SEO is website development. And all these things are related because I like to recommend to clients that they do a combination of organic and paid. Optimizing your website, building out your Google business profile, improving your domain authority, which is kind of the authority of your website. All of those things take time and rankings will take time. Google's kind of a lagging indicator. So we could do everything right, but we still have to wait for the crops to grow and to yield some fruit. So that takes time. So often you can combine that with a paid search strategy so that you're showing up in that number one, number two position right away while the SEO is building and you're controlling more of those search results. And oftentimes, and we got into website development really just out of necessity. We had a lot of clients where their websites were just so poorly designed and poorly optimized that we said, hey, you really need a new website. So that's why we offer those three things. We've had clients ask for other things, whether it's email marketing or organic social or things of that nature. And that's not where we play. And the reason is because I believe that this triangle of SEO, paid search, and website development is that 20% that drives 80% of online results. And I'm not trying to diminish the value of social media. I think it's important, and that's why we use some advertising there. But, when people are looking at actual search results that are going to drive prospects and drive conversion behavior, it's really those three pillars. So that's been our focus. That's what we specialize in. And I think that's what we do extraordinarily well.
That is awesome, Michael. And I would want my audience to definitely understand this when they're doing their own business and they want to get their websites onto that. And so, Michael, how can our audience connect with you and get to know more about you, your company, and all the work that you're doing?
I think the best way is to go to bigfinseo.com. That's our company website. If people want to reach out to me personally, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I still say Twitter. It's going to be hard to say X. But, my profile at LinkedIn is M Fleischner. So Mfleischner. But as I like to tell people being in the business, just Google me. Google Michael Fleischner. Try to spell it as best you can, and you'll see the results that I have for myself. It'll give you ways to contact me. But, I've spent many years kind of shaping those results, and that's what we do for clients. So, I would love to talk to people who are interested in not just the digital piece, SEO and paid search, but certainly the freelance journey and what that looks like. And of course, we'd love to see people at the Freelance Training Academy.
Michael, that is awesome, and I really appreciate that you took the time to enlighten us about SEO and online marketing and all of that. And I'm really grateful that you came to the show to like share your wisdom. And I would want you to come back at a later time.
I'd love that. That would be great.
Awesome, Michael. And I want to conclude this episode by letting my fellow extraordinary Americans know that, hey, look, there's an extraordinary. Hey, everyone. Thank you for watching Extraordinary America. If you like what you see, please do subscribe to our podcast and share it with others. Remember that the best investment that you can make in your lifetime is in your own financial education, for it is knowledge that truly sets us free. Also, remember that inflation is diluting your purchasing power, which in turn increases financial bondage. The practical thing to do is to protect the loss of your purchasing power and invest in precious metals or the right cryptocurrencies. Lastly, never forget that you are an extraordinary American. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.